All right, public meeting, this meeting is called to order at 6 o'clock. Thank you all for attending. And first roll of business, do you need to call the attendance? Or you have that? No.
Yeah, I'll call it.
Roll call.
Mr. Picard?
Here.
Mr. White? Mr. Waters?
Here.
Ms. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Shearer? And Mr. Polachek?
Here. So we
Thank
do
you.
have a quorum, so we'll continue. Item number 3, correction and approval of the minutes that were sent out ahead of time. If I don't hear any corrections, if there are no corrections or additions, I would make a motion to approve.
They look good.
Seconded by Greg. Was that a second?
Sure. Second.
Okay. Let's do it by voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? No, hearing none. Minutes approved. Item number 4, questions and public comment. I don't see anybody in the audit. Okay, our council president is in the audience, but she has no public comment. So let's move right on to item number 5, director's report. Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Polachek. So it's been about 2 months now since we last met. A lot has happened in Public Works. We've had some staffing changes in the electric department. Our foreman had submitted a notice. He went back to the commercial industry. But we were very fortunate to have someone step up. He's been with the department for 7 years. His name's Austin Neese. He has been put in the foreman position on an interim basis. It's going very well. Austin actually had just recently was recognized by WPPI as one of the outstanding linemen in southern Wisconsin and received an award for it called the Shining Star Award. And I was very proud to be able to be there with his wife as well as he was presented this award. And so that's going very well. We are still searching for a beginning level operator for wastewater. This has been a difficult struggle. There are a number of municipalities trying to find certified operators or qualified operators in this field. We'll continue to look. Our street department is about fully staffed. We are minus 1 full-time operator still, but we have brought in another part-time operator who is filling the void. We have a much younger crew now. Things are going well. We've made some very good hires, I feel. We are getting them training for snow plowing in Lake Mills. The county is sponsoring a simulation program for training in snow plowing, and we've enrolled a number of our operators in that. Slide. So activities. In the last month and a half, we've had 3 different power outages, and we've done a great deal of new installations and some training. Slide. And slide. This is on Campus Street. About a month ago, we had a tree just on a very nice sunny day. You can see no wind. It decided to come down, knocked a power line down. This immediately took power out on the west side of town and the downtown area. The crew, though, was able to reestablish power to the downtown business district within minutes just by recircuiting one of the main circuits. And then they got to work. Slide. They bring in 2 different pieces of equipment, one to hold the tree in place, and then the other is the bucket. Slide. And then here is Austin up in the bucket, reestablishing that line. Slide. The other break was on East Tyranena Park. This was very recently. This was just a fuse break. We're still not sure if there was a surge that created this, but it just tripped the gate on the cutout. You spend more time here trying to find where the cutout broke than anything else. And then we reestablish the cutout, and if it holds, we know we found the problem and fixed it. Slide.
Nice picture of the new sidewalk there.
Yes, actually, you're quite right, yes.
Yeah.
And I threw out what I was going to say out of my mind, Mr. Waters.
Sorry about that. You said next slide.
Yes, there was something it was brilliant too. He would have loved to have heard it. Slide. Okay, this is Austin. He's up there right now. They put a fuse into the arm of that cutout and then he reestablishes it. He swings it back up into the socket.
What residents were impacted by this one?
This is around Tyranina and Bauer in that area.
Right. Did it affect residents to the east of that or the south of that, or?
No, primarily in that corridor
there.
on the north side,
Okay.
the northeast side.
Thank you.
What I was going to say was for each of these power outages, we were able to get the alert sense message out and try and keep people informed. In those cases, I try and give a rough estimate, and I overestimate at times for time to reestablish power. But we were pretty close on this time estimate. Next. Then we had, in the morning, on Brown Court, this young person must have been going extremely fast, and they hit this pole and cracked it right at the base. So we had a power outage right about in the middle of town. They did not knock the power out somehow or another, but they did crack the pole. So we had to maintain the power while we replaced the pole. Next. It's not the, next. So here we have Lucas, he's in the bucket, and then Shane is holding the cracked pole with his digger truck, and it has claws on the top, and that's the new pole we're gonna replace it with. Next. And I should have pointed out, Luke's there was, he was holding the wires, but he is wearing protective gear while he does that. Go back, please. And so that is all they're doing. They're replacing the old pole, they're gonna put up the new, and then they're gonna put the wires back onto the new pole. Next. So then we've been doing a lot of new installation in the past 2 months. We've been doing a lot for communication companies. Lake Mills is, in my word, inundated lately with 3 or 4 different communication companies wanting to come through town. Drake, Dan, Dwayne and I have been very busy trying to control just where they're going. We spent a lot of time, a lot of legal time going through this, creating a work agreement with them, and just trying to, it really has been a bit of a frustrating headache at times for us, and just because they're constantly wanting your time and they constantly want to go wherever it suits them, and we're trying to control this. But here, the crew is setting up 6 new poles, a number of them along Mulberry, for this communication system. This in particular is for US Cellular, and they are putting up booster antennas, basically, for the community. This took a while to complete to get to this stage, but we are now pretty much done with that. Next. And this is them putting a riser on that pole. Next. I just call this out, just the little things I like to point out once in a while. This is a hydraulic hammer that Shane is on. It enables him to compact the backfill along the pole much better with hydraulic pressure. And that's very important for such a tall, that's probably a 45-foot pole there. And just a quarter of it is in the ground. Next. And just for your information, if you didn't know, this is what communication companies call a vault. This is not one of our pieces of equipment. This, when you see these in the ground, this is going to belong to a communication company. They normally use this to branch off to different residences, or they use it as a splice box. So just thought I'd point that out. Next. This is new construction that the electric company's been doing. This is out at Brookstone, Phase 8. This is the existing pad-mounted transformer, and since the mass grading is done now, the development of the site, so now we are installing our power for the new lots. They are taking the power from this existing transformer and they're running it south. Next. And this is just exactly that. Austin was working in the excavator, hand digging this trench, and then they're pulling the line right there, and there's some more line getting ready, some coils. Next. We've been doing a good deal of maintenance. As I've posted online, we are experiencing intermittent blips at times within one of our circuits. We hope now, we believe we've isolated the problem. This is at the CP substation. This is called a reclosure unit. The purpose that this performs is that when there is an outage, it will often correct itself. So when there is an outage, the reclosure will restart the line, will re-energize it. If the outage occurs again, such as immediately, this can happen up to 3 times, and then the reclosure will shut it down completely. We believe that one of these breakers in here is faulty, so we have shut this down, transferred that particular circuit to share with another circuit, and we are waiting right now. We reached out to some of our surrounding municipalities, and the Village of Hartford responded, saying that they have some of these in storage that they no longer use. We will no longer be using this hopefully by beginning of 2025 as we are phasing out of the CP substation. So these are going the way of the dinosaur. But as for right now, we are very thankful to Hartford to cooperate with us and to send over their replacement. And this is going to carry us through to the spring. Next. This is at that same incident. Donnie is now de-energizing this reclosure by opening up these 3 breakers. Next. And next. And now we've had twice a year, MEUW hosts training events, safety training, and they host it here in Lake Mills. We are centrally located in the area, and so a number of the different municipalities come down here. And this is one of the key things they practice is lowering a downed man from the pole. And that is our Shane Donegan up there. Next. And then they also practice raising the bucket up to them, and we practice handling that bucket from the ground in case the operator in the bucket is incapacitated. We all take turns lowering that person from the ground. Someone like me takes a lot of advantage of that because I very rarely get to work in the field, so I always enjoy these days. Next. And next. So that takes us to the street department. The big game right now is picking up leaves. We're focused on that task. I have 2 crews working our 1 vac truck. We're working about 11 hours a day right now trying to pick up leaves. It takes time. A lot of people are waiting, I know. But we are working on it. And I think we'll try and get through the entire city this week, and then we'll start again for the cycle. Next. We've been doing a good deal of surface patching. About 3 weeks ago, we basically set up or coordinated with the asphalt supplier, and we cleaned up all the holes that we were going to be patching. Next. And next. And this is just, they've applied the hot mix that normally goes in at about 270 degrees, 275, and then we roll it. Next. Next. Oh, that's a bad picture. Next. And then, like I said, leaf pickup is the name of the game right now. We spent about 10 days on yard waste pickup, and then we jumped right into leaf vacuuming. Next. Next. And next. And every day, oh, hold there please. Every day we're taking this pile about 4 or 5 times a day to the drop-off site at the gun range. Next. Wastewater Department. We are in the process now of spreading sludge. We do this in the spring and the fall. When the waste product comes into the plant, it's separated. You separate your solids from your liquids. And then, depending on what type of plant you have, you process your solids. And for our particular plant, we process them and we store them and wait till we can spread them. We have a cooperative agreement with a number of farming fields where we spread our sludge. And we're entering into that this week. Next. This is Jim. He's working on the sludge spreading gravity belt thickener. This is a very important process. The sludge is in a liquid form, and in order to make it more manageable and lighter by getting rid of the water, we put it through this, what I call a belt press. It's not exactly a belt press, it's a belt thickener. Next. And Jim he takes the sludge, it starts going through this thickener, and a polymer product is added that coagulates it. And that basically gives it more cohesion and thus more mass, and it dewaters the product. Next. And it creates this flock. I don't know why that word exists, but I've known it for 20 years. But we call this flock particles. And this becomes more manageable, and from here it goes into our storage tank, where it will sit until we're ready to start loading it into trucks that will go out and spread this in various farmers' fields that we have agreements with. Prior to doing that, we need to pass a number of permits from the DNR, about 3 of them, that need to be cleared. Next. And this is the flock particle. This is the final product that then goes into the storage tank. Well, we do this twice a week, about 100,000 gallons each time, and then it goes into the storage tank. Next, which is right there. That's one of our 2. Our second one is underground. Next. Then, I had the pleasure to go to a Wastewater Operators Association conference. Why this is more pleasurable is because our own Bill Kiesling last year received an award for Operator of the Year. And thus, everyone there this year recognized him, for one, because he's standing right next to the picture of him receiving that award. So Bill was a very popular guy there, and we had an enjoyable 2 days, attending a number of different classes and then listening in on the seminar. Next. The Water Department. Next. You might remember this photo I produced. It was demonstrating just how much progress we're making on changing meters from the old analog reading ones to digital. That way we can read them remotely. Next. Next. So this is Devin. We're making still great strides in replacing the old meters. I went on this call with him where he is replacing this water meter here. Next. This is the residents' old one. We pre-arranged with them by putting out not advertisements, but requests that we would like to change your meter. And we're starting to get a lot of positive response. Next. And so Devin changes it out really quick. It normally takes about 20 minutes if there's nothing challenging. Next. And then he goes outside and he installs the reader. And this enables us to read this digitally, remotely. Next. And that's the product on the wall there. And this saves us a lot of time now. Our meter reader just has a unit in her hand and a remote unit, and she's able to record these from a distance and then just download them here in City Hall. Next. We've done a good deal of valve replacement. We've had some water valves that have broken. Next. Here they're at Madison, and I believe that's Prospect, where we had a valve that malfunctioned. Next. It's kind of hard to see there, but that is the old valve. And you can see a lot of the rust, and the nut that we put our tool on to turn it is warped and was not turning. Next. That is it there. It's upside down, but that's the nut I was just pointing at. You can see a lot of the corrosion that has happened here. I get nervous putting these pictures up because people might think their water must be filthy going through that, but inside the pipe it is still fairly clean. Next. But this is the new product. It has your stems on each side, the HDPE pipe, and obviously a nice shiny new valve. I believe that's a 6-inch. Does that look like? Next. And we attach this with Hymax sleeves, which are getting more and more sophisticated every year, but easier with that sophistication. Next. Projects, Brookstone Phase 8 is done for the mass grading. All the power is in now. This has been turned over to the individual home developers now. We do have a number of new projects coming up in the spring that Dwayne and I will start letting the board know about and what plans we have. We have a public information meeting, is that tomorrow? Yes, for the Milton Street project. But I believe that is all. Is there any questions?
Yes, I have. I have a question on in terms of project updates, the intersection on Madison, we talked about a crosswalk. And I noticed that that hasn't been installed yet. I was just wondering what an update is on that project.
I don't know that we can get to that this year still. To apply that kind of paint, either paint, epoxy or water-based, in cold temperatures means it's just not going to have a very long life. So I am, regret to tell you, I think the spring is a better time to apply this.
Okay.
So that's where, if we have a nice warm December, but that might change things, but.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had isn't really a project update, but it has to do with a comment you made earlier about spending time with communication companies. I was wondering, is there any kind of a impact fee that we have that we assess those companies? Because they do take up a lot of your time from other projects.
They pay a permit fee and then they have to pay a fee to be on the pole.
Is it high enough? I'm not advocating high increased costs for doing business, but I'm just wondering if it's enough that helps to offset your involvement.
I wouldn't mind if you raised it.
Yeah, it does not, I would not say it covers, for this particular stretch, I don't believe it covered our costs.
But that fee is set by PSC, right?
Not the permit fee, the attachment fee, went through a contract that was approved by the city council several years ago and went through several iterations through an industry attorney that is kind of a template for utilities throughout. So I don't know if it's set by the PSC, it may be, but we're using a kind of an industry standard pole attachment agreement.
Okay, I recently had to pay like $1,200 for a municipality to review our sign, and I thought that was high.
That's
But-
pretty high.
That is high.
Yeah, that's what so I wondered, well, what would something like this run in terms of review?
Do you remember what the permit fee is?
It's nominal,
Yeah,
$150, I believe, and then they do submit an escrow.
yeah.
I think it's 1,500, or it might, So it is nominal. But again, like Drake said, there is the meter fee that they're paying for it, so.
Great, okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Randy?
I have a question, because you said you were going to be land spreading sludge. I have a couple questions. One, do you land spread sludge every year? And two, what proximity are those fields from the city? And I know that it stinks. Are there any incorporation methods or any ways that you're mitigating the stench?
We have been able to spread twice a year for 2023 and 2024. If we have to miss a cycle, if the ground's just too wet, we do have the capacity to skip a cycle and still hold that. So yes, to the first part of your question, we have been spreading that every year. The locations, I can give that to you. I can show you the DNR permit. They list the locations. They are not near the city. But I don't want to publicly state exactly where the fields are, for farmers' sake, for one. But I can certainly tell you personally where they are, so.
Okay,
Is the sludge surface spread or is it injected?
yeah.
It is surface spread. And at times, if the DNR, I mean, they're in the field too, and they might require that the farmer lime the field as well during the spread. So,
Okay, Greg?
I'd like to follow up on Mr. Polachek's question on the installing communications on poles. One of my thoughts is if we're putting up poles for these communication companies and we're not getting enough reimbursement for that, it seems like something we might want to look at, something we need to review for the future, especially if we're putting poles up in neighborhoods where we're investing the time and effort to go underground with our utilities, now all of a sudden we're putting up a pole for communication efforts. It's kind of counter to what we're trying to accomplish, but it just seems like I get where they're coming from, and I get what our policy currently is, but maybe we need to review that and make sure that we're assessing proper fees for this type of activity.
Yeah, they do pay costs, so they pay for the poles and installation of them. So on that, we're clear, but largely it's the planning and review that probably we want to look at our permit fee for, to possibly raise. They have a quasi right to be on the poles if the poles exist.
Right.
So a lot of the poles, new poles may have been installed because they needed a different specification. And I think in one case, a completely new pole was put in, but sometimes the poles have existed already and they're attaching to them, and they have a quasi right as a quasi public utility to be on them. But if we completely decommission poles, then they don't have a right to, they can buy the pole from us and keep it there if they'd like, but it's certainly something we can look into.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, anything? Anything from Madison or anybody who's joined us? Okay, so then let's move on to item number 6.
Is that a Public Works representative on?
That's what I asked.
That's Nate Austin, he's with Johns.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I
So,
just want to make sure that we recognized if it was a Public Works member.
okay. Any other things for Randy? Okay, hearing none, let's move to item number 6, the Johns disposal contract extension.
So we are under contract with Johns, and it does go through next year. Johns contacted us with what the increase would be under the terms of our current contract, and then offered to do a no increase next year for a contract extension. We have had good service with Johns. We have not had any significant complaints that have made it to me since I began here. So staff thinks the 5-year extension is worth considering, and also keeps our costs down for next year. This fee's a pass-through, so it's paid on the utility bill by residents. Alternatively, we could not extend the contract, take the contractual increase for next year, and either discuss extending that at a later date or going out to RFP for it. But Nate Austin with Johns is here if you have any questions of him.
Can you review the schedule that you printed out, that you sent to everyone, just for point of reference?
Which one are you referencing?
Not the amendment,
The letter?
yes. There was a table that you sent out.
Yep. So that came from John. So our 2024 rate was 1093 for weekly garbage and 679 for recycling. With the extension, that would remain the same. Without the extension, it's going up by the 2.4%, I believe it is. So it'd be $11.19 weekly garbage and $6.95 weekly recycling. So those are the increases that the residents would see if we did not extend. Otherwise, a 5-year contract would keep it flat through next year and then would return to the tied to CPI.
Okay. Great.
Do these fees also include the large garbage pickup, which I think residents can do once a month?
Nate, those are rolled into the current contract and that's not changing, correct?
That's correct.
And it's monthly? Yeah, they can do one per month?
Yeah, so residents receive up to one a month right now with a maximum of 12 per year. I put the tonnage in the letter just because I find it kind of interesting, but anecdotally, I would just share with you that your residents take pretty good advantage of the bulk collection program.
Thank you.
230 tons last year from bulk collection.
How does that compare to other municipalities? Is that,
Municipalities do it differently. Not everyone offers the once a month. In a previous community I managed, they did a once a year bulk pickup event where you could put anything on the side of the road and then it got picked up. So some will do it once, and some communities have gotten away from bulk pickup and just residents can call and schedule it, but it's at resident cost.
yeah, you have to call, it has to be there before the pickup day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Any questions on the rate? How do you want to proceed?
The resolution that's attached to your packet does recommend to the city council for the extension. So I just wanted to make sure you were all clear on that.
And the resolution is that the charge of 17.72 per unit per month shall apply to all private residents, commercial, industrial, institutional, and/or agricultural collection points in the city of Lake Mills. And the rate schedule that is listed in the amendment to the agreement has curbside weekly garbage at $10.93 per unit per month, and the weekly recycling is $6.79 per unit per month, which comes to the $17.72, and the annual cost is $212.64. Is there further discussion on that particular point? Okay.
I'll move to approve. It looks like we're reviewing a city council resolution 24-72. It does have a sign off for Public Works President, Greg Polachek, so everything looks in order.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 24-72, establishing garbage, refuge, and recyclable pickup disposal fees for the next 5 years, as listed in the amendment to number 1 to the agreement and as listed in the resolution. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Polachek?
Aye.
Mr. Picard?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. So now we move into item number 7, and that's recommendations for future agendas. Does anybody have some recommendations? I have one. So I noticed that, and it's not really a Public Works item, but it's a Plan Commission item. But my question or recommendation is how does this particular item in the Plan Commission impact our city infrastructure? And it has to do with a new apartment complex being considered for the city's northwest side. And there's a number of apartments and townhomes that are that are proposed for that area. And that particular proposal is winding its way through other particular committees. But my one question actually leads to, how does that particular project impact our wastewater treatment plant? And also, how does it impact our road? Is there a road widening project involved as part of that? And basically, who picks up the costs for that?
Yeah, that all gets considered during the approval process through Plan Commission and City Council. So if something were not able to be served by the infrastructure that we have in place, it could not be approved if the wastewater treatment plant could not accept it. So that data is presented by the developer and reviewed by the city's team. So water, wastewater, electrical, all infrastructure gets evaluated to ensure that we can serve the proposed development. And then as far as road widening, there's a conversation with the county that goes on with the county because it's a county jurisdiction road.
Okay.
So they have recently completed a traffic impact analysis that they'll include in their presentation to the Plan Commission. And then they are in contact with the county highway department as well to discuss what and if any shoulder or roadway improvements would be necessary for it. So all of those questions do get considered during the approval process.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any recommendations?
I imagine we will have sometime in the coming months a recommendation for authorization to bid the Milton Street project. So preliminary design is largely complete. We'll be talking with residents tomorrow. Public Works and Engineering will be finalizing the design and then bringing it forward to this body and then City Council to authorize us to bid and get that published and out there so that we can get it awarded in the early part of 2025 for
Okay.
get started during that construction season.
Okay. Anything else? If there are no other recommendations, we can move to item number 8 and move to adjourn. Do we need a motion to adjourn? No?
You can adjourn.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.